Welcome to the next generation of warfare, psychological warfare. In modern conflict, the mind is a potent weapon. Discover General Michael T. Flynn's groundbreaking guide, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. Unlock tactics, strategies, and the mindset to navigate this cognitive battlefield that we all find ourselves in. Equip yourself against manipulation and emerge unscathed. Unleash your potential. Order now.
Are you worried about the effects that higher inflation rates will have on your investments? Are you trying to secure your retirement savings against losses, but you notice that inflation is a hot topic these days? But how dangerous are low inflation rates on your retirement savings? An inflation rate of 2% may not seem like much, but it means that prices will just about quintuple over the lifetime of the average American. And 4% average inflation rate means that something that costs $1 when they're born will cost $23 when they die. That demonstrates the danger of even low inflation rates. So when it comes to gold and inflation rates, many investors want to know whether inflation rates have an effect on gold prices. What history indicates is that over the long term, increased inflation should lead to correspondingly higher gold prices. From September 1971 to August 2020, gold grew 7.5 times as much as inflation. Not only can an investment in physical gold help protect your assets against the damage done by inflation, it can also help grow the value of your retirement portfolio over the long term. If you're looking to protect your retirement assets, why wait until stock markets crash and gold begins to rise in price?
I'm excited to announce that we're having our biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal you won't find anywhere else. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get our MyPillow bed sheets, only $29.88. Any color, any style, any size, even kings, regular $119.98, only $29.88. Once they're gone for good. How about our My Towels? They're finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set, regular $69.98, now only $39.98. And for the first time and the only time ever, get our limited edition premium My Pillows. They're made with Giza cotton and designer gusset. Queen $17.98, Kings only $19.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get the best offers ever. Quantities are extremely limited, so order now.
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolus versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
So remember, support the people, support this show. All those links down in the description below. So if you're watching on a different platform, you got to get over to Rumble or YouTube or go to the website, AlphaWarrior.tv. We got a returning guest today with an amazing product. I'm telling you, it's life-changing because it's been life-changing for me. So with that, let me welcome Gabe from Goodbru to the show. Brother, it's been a minute. And I've just gotten a lot of positive feedback back.
Awesome, man.
My own personal experience has been awesome. For those that are like, I'm not familiar with Goodbru, or I didn't see the last episode, can you kind of bring us up to speed? What is Goodbru and why am I so excited about it?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be back on again, and Merry Christmas. And yeah, there's so much going on. So gut health is important to everything, and we get so many great testimonials and so many repeat customers. And we have great testimonials from people like you. So yeah, we're very pleased and happy that so many people are responding to our product and reordering the product. But gut health affects everything. So we have a lot of people who have a very specific digestive health issue, maybe acid reflux. We hear a lot of people who have been battling with acid reflux for years, and our product seems to really help them a lot. There's some specific reasons for why that probably is. People with IBS or chronic constipation. So these very specific kind of digestive health issues that people deal with. And then we also have a lot of people who just recognize it as being something that's really helping them overall with their health. And that's really important because the gut affects our mental health. It affects all the organs in the body. It affects the skin, and it affects obviously the digestive system. And there's many reasons for why this is, but your microbiome plays a huge role in metabolizing nutrition. So extracting nutrients from our food, but also turning that nutrients into other compounds that our body needs to function correctly. Of some of these very important ones that only the gut microbiome does is like the production of short chain fatty acids. These short chain fatty acids are essential for good cellular metabolism throughout the body. And like 70% of the energy source the cells in the digestive system want to use as the energy source for our own cells in our body is produced by the microbiome. Our body does not produce these short chain fatty acids. And in fact, we were at a show with where I was doing a talk, and Dr. Judy Mikovich actually heard my talk, and she had a long talk after mine, and she recognized Goodbru because she had information in her talk about short chain fatty acids and the importance of the microbiome in that. So Goodbru really is a foundational gut health product. It's a organic fiber, organic inulin fiber. This is the kind of fiber that the gut microbiome naturally feeds on. There's many fibers on the market that are sold by Big Pharma and these other brands that are either dextrins, like wheat dextrin or corn dextrin, or they're synthetic fibers, and none of those types of fibers are the kinds of fibers that the gut microbiome would feed on in nature. But inulin fiber comes from fruits, and ours is an organic inulin fiber, and so that provides that prebiotic that the good microbes feed on to produce these short chain fatty acids and other metabolites. And then we have a probiotic, and many probiotics on the market that people buy in capsule form and that sort of thing. They can't put enough fiber in an actual capsule to make a difference as a prebiotic. And the probiotics that are in these capsules don't survive well on the shelf, and then they die in your stomach because of the stomach acid. And these are what we call colonizing probiotics that we mostly get from almost exclusively get from our mothers at birth. But there are spore-forming probiotics, and Mother Nature has provided for us these spore-forming probiotics that we would get from the soil and this sort of thing as we were, digging up food from the ground, that are transitory, and they're spores, and they germinate in the lower intestine, where they do a great job of supporting these other microbes, the other probiotics, and bringing them back up. So that's why our product, as a spore-forming probiotic, can survive in coffee, which makes it really easy to use, and survives through the stomach acid where it gets to the lower intestine, where it really helps to support, in combination with that prebiotic, all these other very important microbes that affect everything from, chronic, like inflammatory disease, mental health, mood, all these sorts of things. And it works. And it's really, and because you use it in a scoop in our product, you can actually get enough of the fiber, and you can adjust it to what works for you. So we always tell people, just start with 1 scoop and then see how you like that. And then if you want to use 2 scoops or even 3 scoops, I use 2, sometimes 3 a day personally, but a lot of our customers are happy with just using 1 scoop. So it also lasts a long time because we already priced the product very affordably in our serving sizes based on 2 scoops. But if you like 1 scoop and that's what works for you, you get a lot of value out of that. In addition to, if you order our product, make sure you use Alpha to get another 10% off of the Christmas specials we'll talk about here in a minute. But with this gut health issue, so let's just take our probiotic, for example. It's got over 25 clinical studies behind it and 40-some research papers on this specific strain. That species in general actually has many, like hundreds of papers behind Bacillus coagulans and the benefits. But just very specifically with that probiotic alone, not even talking about the prebiotic and the combination that's called symbiotic, It's been studied, for example, to increase protein utilization by up to 20%. That's because the microbiome plays a very important role in breaking down proteins. If you're on any kind of diet, but let's just say especially if you're on like a carnivore diet, if you're not getting fiber and you don't have the right microbiome to break those proteins down, your body really can't use those proteins. Proteins have to be, and this includes collagen. Collagen is the second most common protein in the body. Those proteins have to be broken down into peptides and amino acids. And so the stomach acid starts to break down those proteins, and then the enzymes in the small intestine start to break down those proteins. But then the microbiome plays a very important role in really getting those proteins broken down into peptides and amino acids. That's why we get a lot better absorption of the proteins themselves. But also they produce those peptides. So they're like, fermenting that nutrient source into molecules that our body can really use in addition to the short chain fatty acids we were talking about. This also includes B vitamins. You know how important B vitamins are to our nervous system and to our overall cellular metabolism. The microbiome plays a big role in getting those B vitamins out of the food we're eating, but the microbiome also produces B vitamins. So, it's like this factory that's going on in there. And what happens with a lot of people, because of every generation since antibiotics have been in heavy use since World War II, we've got less and less diverse microbiomes in the Western world. And this is, and we have more DNA in our bodies that are part of the microbiome than they are of our own DNA. And so this is really important. This plays a huge role. And then you combine that with all the pesticides, other medications, preservatives, and toxins that are in our environment, and our gut microbiome has taken a really big hit over in the modern world, and we're constantly, damaging it. So we need to do things to support that microbiome. But one of the things that happens in addition to the microbiome breaking down these nutrients and helping with the absorption of calcium and other minerals, vitamins, etc., it also supports a healthy digestive system and digestive tract in and of itself. So you get this double whammy effect. If you're in dysbiosis, which goes back to what I was saying about every generation having a less diverse microbiome, you don't have the right microbes to really keep your gut healthy in general. And this then starts to cause damage to the lining of the gut, the epithelial lining, the epithelial cells start to open up. And this is what we call leaky gut. And things start to get outside of the gut that are supposed to stay in the gut. And that's when the body's immune system starts to create a lot of these inflammatory responses. And we get a lot of these inflammatory diseases like arthritis and also this are relating this to dementia and all these other things, but also just overall health and energy and these sorts of things, which also gets into how our guts produce neurotransmitters. So a lot of people probably don't know that 90% of the serotonin in the body is actually produced in the gut, not in the brain. There's also another very important compound called corticotropin release factor, which regulates cortisol levels in the body. And that's produced in the brain, but it's also produced in the gut. And one of the real interesting things that's starting to happen is they've noticed for a long time, there was a famous study in 2010 done on mice, and where they had these depressed mice, and the depressed mice wouldn't swim to save themselves, and they would sit there and drown. And then they changed the gut microbiome of these mice, and the mice started to swim again, et cetera. And then they cut the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is what connects the gut to the brain in these same mice, and the mice went back to being depressed, et cetera. And they also saw, and then they followed that study up with humans. Obviously, they didn't cut the vagus nerve. But that's when in 2013, they saw really a good study that showed this really strong connection between the gut and the brain and its relationship to mood and depression and that sort of thing. But what they also saw in that study was that they could actually see regions of the brain start to heal and to fire up and become more active. But this serotonin and corticotropin factor that's also produced in the gut, they're produced by the same cells. And so they've seen when the gut gets in dysbiosis, for example, that we actually start producing too much of this corticotropin factor in the gut, and we also start producing less serotonin. So it's this double whammy effect. And that serotonin is not just for mood, but it really modulates our digestive system. So that neurotransmitter starts to affect in how we move nutrients through the digestive system. So that's where a lot of IBS and that sort of thing is related to this mechanism of serotonin, which is also related to mood and depression. So there's this link between gut health and depression that they're really seeing is they think kind of largely related to this serotonin regulation. And without a healthy gut microbiome, then all these things start to get dysregulated. And I actually had a Vietnam vet who was a retired dentist who got me to go down this rabbit hole a little bit. He said, because he keeps up with these things, he said, the military has been studying, the VA has been studying PTSD in vets, and not only does, just like with autistic children, proven the gut microbiome relieve anxiety and other, better, just have better mood as after you've already had one. And this also applies to just everyday people, but it also was showing that the gut at the time that you experience trauma, your gut health at the time you experience trauma has a lot to do with how you're able to process that trauma. And what they saw, or what they're showing is, and they showed this also in Gulf War vets, but he was specifically talking about Vietnam vets, was that if the gut microbiome was in dysbiosis at the time they experienced trauma, they were far more predisposed to PTSD. So this, you just think about our everyday lives. If that's just a case study that has to do with people under a high degree of stress, but we're under stress all of the time. So if we have a healthy gut, that's going to raise we're going to have more gas in the tank, so to speak. If we have a healthy gut, it's just like exercising regularly and sleep regularly. The gut is primary. It's not secondary or tertiary. It's primary to our health. It's primary to all of our organ function, mental function, everything, so Goodbru, our product, is just a really great product for both helping some people deal with very specific gut health issues, but it's also a really good product for helping to create an environment in the lower intestine that then supports these other microbes that might be in dysbiosis. And so when the good bugs are in control, they produce a more acidic environment in the lower intestine. So the stomach is the most acidic. The stomach produces its own acidity. The small intestine is somewhat neutral in pH if it's healthy, and then the lower intestine, if it's healthy, it's got a more acidic environment, not as acidic as the stomach, but it's more acidic than the small intestine. But that acidity in the lower intestine is actually produced by the microbes themselves. So you may have heard of lactobacillus or bifidobacteria at Akkermansia. They like to live in this environment that is largely produced by a healthy gut microbiome from lactobacillus. And then when it gets in dysbiosis and the bad microbes take over, they produce an environment that has a higher pH, which the probiotics have a very hard time bouncing back and taking back over control. They're there, but they're not enough there to do a good job. So a product like Goodbru that you can use every day, that's natural, no preservatives, no processing aids, just two organic inulin and a probiotic that's well studied, both found in nature, really helps to then create an environment that helps to support that lactobacillus, that really helps it come back up. And so it's sort of like a boost to the system in all your microbes that you got from your mother at birth. So it really gets into many aspects of health, and having a healthy gut was going to help you. If you're an athlete, you're going to train better, you're going to recover better. If you're older and you're having a harder time processing protein, which we know that happens as we get older, it can really help somebody like that. If you're just a younger person who's eating, let's say you're eating a low protein diet, you might need to get more the protein where you can. But also, if you're on a high protein diet, what happens is you get too many of your gut. It sort of gets narrowed in its diversity, and so you might be getting a lot of protein in your diet, but you don't have the fiber and the microbes that can really help to break down that protein into a useful form. So that's all very important. A lot of studies supporting a boost in immune function, and and obviously these chronic inflammatory diseases. And just so you know, like when I first really got interested in probiotics, it was back before it was back when they were still on the fringe, but I was in graduate school and I was working in an office of tech transfer at the university where I was at, and we were talking about multiple sclerosis, and there was actually a guy out there that had a theory that's now quite a well accepted theory, but at the time it was just sort of on the fringe, that MS was related to the gut microbiome, because in a lot of countries, regions of the world that do not, like Africa and places like that, they don't have much MS. And he was saying this might largely be related to the fact that they have much more diverse microbiomes, because they haven't, been as their microbiomes hasn't been impacted as much by modern life. And so that now is quite well accepted theory for that relationship. And then with dementia and Parkinson's disease, there might be relinking back to the microbiome, through the microbiome's ability to help us have healthy levels of B vitamins, which then helps the cells able to process iron correctly. And what they see in Parkinson's disease is this inability for their cells in the brain to really handle iron, which they link back to they're linking possibly back to the microbiome. And then with Alzheimer's and some of these others, they're linking it to oral health. So the same bacteria that causes gingivitis and cavities translocates to the intestines and to the gut. And if we don't have a healthy gut microbiome, they proliferate in the gut, and then they start to produce these same toxins, get outside of the gut into the central nervous system, and then that creates an immune response in the brain. That's probably also related to metabolic, cellular metabolism, and some other things. It's probably more complicated than just one simple thing. But there is that relationship. And there's also the relationship between what we talk about serotonin. There's serotonin also exists it makes its way into the cells, all the cells of the body, which it then converts to melatonin in the cell. And that melatonin is a critical component to supporting mitochondrial function in the cell. So that also links back to the gut microbiome. A healthy gut microbiome, healthy levels of serotonin production in the gut. That serotonin makes its way through the body, where it gets into the cells, it converts to melatonin, and the melatonin supports the mitochondria in the cell. So it's a long chain of events, but it's all connected.
That is freaking. I learned so much more now, even in addition to what you had already kind of taught us the first time we had you on. And I love when I get new knowledge. Let me ask you this, because two things here, with the B vitamin, and even right now with the melatonin. If somebody's out there and let's just say they're taking a B supplement, or let's just say they're taking a melatonin supplement to help them with their sleep, is this something where they're still going to be okay to take this, or do they have to stop taking those other vitamins, or can they continue just to take their Goodbru?
No, it should be beneficial. So if you're already supplementing with some B vitamins, it should only add to that. It should only, so the healthy microbiome, what you're trying to do is get your microbiome healthy. It's not the Goodbru specifically, it's the benefiting of your overall gut microbiome. So the Goodbru supports the other overall gut microbiome, which then helps to support B vitamin production, extraction of B vitamins from the nutrients you're taking. So the microbiome will actually process a lot of those B vitamins that you take as supplements as well, and those B vitamins might actually also help to support the gut microbiome, in and of itself. So it all works together. Now, there's melatonin that's produced in the brain. It's the same melatonin molecule, but that is really in the brain, it's where it really affects sleep and sleep patterns and circadian rhythm in that way. So the melatonin that's in all the other cells in the body, they're supporting the role really of the mitochondria, which is energy function. So that's probably not going to have much to do with the supplementing of melatonin. Now, there may be studies, it's probably somewhat of an unknown thing, but most of the time when we talk about melatonin that we supplement, we're mostly trying to supplement that circadian rhythm thing that's going on in the brain, and they're kind of separate, is at least the way that I've read about it. So you're with the healthy gut microbiome and healthy serotonin levels in the digestive system, there's no reason to stop supplementing your melatonin because you have a healthy gut. And also that serotonin in the gut, that's so important to so many other things. They're also making a a really strong connection now between the gut and cardiovascular disease. So, so what they were really, we know sugar is really bad for the cardiovascular system, but when they were looking, there was a study done in Spain, and it was done with like 100 bankers over time, and they saw that the biggest difference in the bankers who ended up really getting heart attacks and then also fatal heart attacks was they linked it back to the microbiome, and that might have something to do. I don't know if they really actually pinpointed why, but it probably has something to do with the way the microbiome plays an important role in healing from damage that's done from sugar and poor nutrients. So it's probably a good chance it's related to that, and probably a good chance it's related to these short chain fatty acids. But and also going back to the protein, if you have the unhealthy gut and those proteins don't get digested properly, what can happen is those proteins can make their way out of the gut with the fats that the lipids that we consume, and lipids take a different path out of the digestive system. They go through the lymphatic system and go up through the heart and then get pumped down to the liver rather than getting absorbed into the bloodstream and going directly to the liver. So when the gut gets a dysbiosis and then we start getting things seeping out of the gut, one of the ones is these undigested proteins, and the body really sees whole proteins as dangerous. And so it really kicks off our immune system, and our body starts to produce these antigens against these undigested proteins that get outside of the gut. And so that has a lot to do with these inflammatory responses that people are suffering from also.
Wow. So much centered around that. And it's so important because, there's, Make America Healthy Again. And there's this push for it, which I absolutely love. And we're seeing people that are wanting to move to more of these like holistic and natural methods, and instead of like, the bad stuff that, the doctor just wants to inject you with, or these prescription meds. And so to see these things that are like, hey, take some Goodbru, help your gut, get to where it needs, so it can kick off your immune system and balance you out. It's awesome. I know for me that my fine point is a scoop and a half. Like I noticed two was a little too much for me. One was just like but a scoop and a half just seemed like that perfect dosage for me. And I do it in the morning. Yeah, and I do it in the morning with my coffee. For those that don't drink coffee, is it something that they could put in water or juice? Or, what are some other methods people can use this?
Yeah, we have a lot of people who use it in juice. If you use it in juice, if you actually like making your own juice, just put it in after the strainer. Like don't strain it through, because you don't want it to get stuck in the strainer or lost that way. But and also if you're blending, this is just there's no like research behind when you put it in the blender, but I would just recommend putting it at the end, because the shear force of those blades is different than heat or any other kind of stress. You can produce a lot of energy with the blade. So I would, if I was putting it in a blender, I'd put it in at the end, when that last little pulse that you do to get it blended into juice. We got people put in yogurt, and we actually have people who will, especially we've heard this from people with acid reflux, where sometimes they'll actually take it without putting it in anything. They'll just take a spoonful of it. But yeah, you can put it in water. If you put it in ice water, it's going to clump because it's going to freeze before it dissolves. So mix it into a little bit of lukewarm water or warm water before you put in cold water. It'll just dissolve better that way.
And again, just in case people joined a little bit late, this specific type of prebiotic, or the spore itself, coffee doesn't ruin it. It's designed to live in that environment, which is fantastic. Because I remember I was telling my buddy, and he's just like, and I go, I don't remember the science of how to explain it. I go, but it comes from, like kind of like you said, the soil where we get our food. So it's meant to handle these heat, or these extreme heats.
Yeah, these bacteria that produces spores. The spores are proteins that create a shell around the bacteria, or really it's kind of almost like it converts into just a complete dormant form, and it's very hardy that way. In fact, you could even bake with it. You could actually put it in bread if you wanted to, and bake with it. It would be fine. And then it likes to germinate in the environment of the gut, and so it's found in nature. It's a natural probiotic found in nature, and we've got to make sure you use Alpha. That gets 10% off, but that you can add that 10% onto the Christmas specials and holiday specials that we've got running as well. So we've got a buy a large, get a free small We've get two of this medium size. We call it like the New Year's special. So if there's two people, especially, you can get one for each of you at a discount. We also have three of these smalls that are, we call them the stocking stuffer special, but some people like the smalls because they're easy to travel with. So if you buy a large, you'll get a free small, or you can buy the three of those. But you can use Alpha in addition to that special, and you can also use it on anything we've got. And we always have a product offering that's three larges together. That's a really good value as well. And that we always have that on the site. And what we see is people who, they'll start with a small or a large and use it and decide that they like the product, then they'll just go ahead and buy three of the larges and get a good discount on that. And the other thing is everybody uses it. Like you use a scoop and a half, some people use one scoop. So everybody uses it at a little different rates. And so I think a lot of people like to buy the large or the 3-pack because then, it lasts them quite a while, and then they run out. They just reorder based on their own personal, needs, and so some people that three large will last them 6 months to even a year, depending on, how much they use.
It's awesome. I'm telling you guys, and it doesn't change the flavor of your coffee. I want to make sure I cover that too, because I'm very picky with my coffee, to everything that I put into it. And I'm telling you guys, me personally have noticed zero change to the flavor. I don't know if you've ever gotten that feedback, Gabe, but I've noticed.
Yeah, no, it does not affect it at all. You're using just one or two scoops, and it's almost flavorless. If you put a little bit on your finger and tasted it, it would be mildly sweet, and so it does not affect the flavor of your coffee at all. It's very good that way.
100%. Let me ask you this. Age range, what about like young kids, like elementary school kids? They're constantly on the playgrounds. We know they touch everything, put their fingers in their mouths, so they always get these bad stuff that they probably shouldn't have in their bodies. Is this something that you could put in their their apple juice or their orange juice, or is this something more for like the older older?
No, everybody. We have people of all ages that use the product, and unfortunately, a lot of young people. Alpha, you'd be blown away by how many like young people we talk to. Teenagers, college age, that have gut health issues. When I was growing up, gut health issues were something you heard about from old people. Man, this generation has been hammered with stuff. All the shots and medicines and preservatives and things in their foods. The younger generation is having a lot of health issues related to gut, and I know we have little kids who use it. And all the way up to I know I've talked to people at least in their 90s. I don't know if I've spoken to anybody that's 100 yet, but we got them from all ages and backgrounds, blue collar, white collar, men, women, doesn't matter. Like 50% of the U.S. population, adults have some sort of gut health issue.
It's crazy. Yeah, you see this. You see the Prilosec commercials for the acid reflux. Which I tell people all the time, steer away from energy drinks. Don't be drinking those monsters and those things. And that goes back to a story, when I first started to get acid reflux. Oh man, this was probably 15 years ago, 12 years ago. And I go to my doctor, and one of the questions on there, this had to have been around 2012, 2013, right around that time frame. And he goes, they do all the lab work, the x-rays and all that stuff, and everything was checking out fine. He goes, in his questionnaire, he goes, how many energy drinks do you drink? And he goes, do you drink at least one? And I was like, one. I was like, no, I'm probably like around two. And he's like, that's way too many energy drinks to drink in a week. And I looked at him like, a week? I'm talking about in a shift, man. And he just looked at me, and so he went down like the ingredients in that and told me what these things did. Like he literally terrified me.
That terrifies you. Yeah.
And I forget which particular one, but there was one specific ingredient within, and I'll just say allegedly with the monster drinks. There was one particular ingredient there that allegedly has an impact on the tissue that layers on your heart.
Really?
Yeah. And when he said that, I was just like, this is already a high stress job. So, and I completely just wrote it off. But he gave me Prilosec, which I took for, I think it took like 2 or 3 days, and because it was very mild, but I was young and I noticed it, and so it went away. And I think I've had a sip of an energy drink maybe 2 or 3 times in like the last 15 years. I just won't drink that stuff.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, I
Good
look
for you.
yeah, well, there's so many other healthy stuff now where they're finding ways to get energy into the body through drinks, through healthy things, like with this, like with Goodbru, healthy ways to make the body feel, its most efficient, that we can have. And so that's why I love to have people on like you that have these products, that invested the time. It's not a gimmick. It's not an info commercial. This is something that you're going to take it. Like you said, you get the small jar, if you're hesitant, right? And I understand people are hesitant, and you're like, this is amazing. Like I really noticed something. This is not one of those things, at least for me personally, and people that have given me feedback that I've bought it. This is not something that you're like, well, I got to wait 2 months to fill it. Like, no, you're going to notice within a few days, like, I feel something. I feel good.
A lot of people do, especially if they're dealing with something specific, even in a few days. And even the probiotic itself, I mean, people think, gut health and rebuilding your gut it is a thing that takes time, to continue to do. But yes, a lot of immediate issues can be dealt with fairly quickly. Even the probiotic starts to work in like about 24 hours or something like that, so yes, we've had a lot of people who, with just in a couple of days, have like given us. I've got a testimonial I keep on my phone that was messaged to me about a person who she had had cancer, gone through a lot of different things, and she was using a lot of Tums and Ozempic, or was it whatever, one of the proton pump inhibitors, and I gave her some. Just gave her some because she told me her story, and she sent me a text, and it was only like 3 or 4 days, and she was like, I was going to wait a while to give you my feedback, but she said, I've already stopped using my Tums and my proton pump inhibitors, and it was like 3 or 4 days. I keep that on there, but there's proton pump inhibitors and acids. I mean, they're not cures, and so they're really just lowering the acidity in the stomach, which over time starts to give you problems with how much nutrients you're absorbing from the food you're eating, because you have to have the stomach's acidic for a reason. It's there to help you break down the food that you're eating. So if you're using proton pump inhibitors and antacids all the time, you're really not properly digesting your food, which then leads into more gut health issues. And it's really a shame, because that ends up leading people to really severe GERD, and eventually a lot of people even end up with having to have some sort of operation done to their esophagus, none of which cures the actual problem.
Yeah, it just seems like there's all these band-aids for symptoms, rather than addressing the root cause, which is at the core of our bodies, which obviously our gut health is that. I've over the last couple of years, I've developed a relationship with enough nurses and doctors that they've hammered the point of how important gut health is, that it is important. And that's why when you share the part that, hey, there's this nerve, that runs from our gut to our brain, and this pathway has a lot to do with it. I want people to understand that. What is, aside from her, and it doesn't have to be like the most powerful testimonial, but what's probably the most common feedback you get from people that have tried Goodbru?
Wow, it's really all across the board, but there's 2 big ones and that really bother people, and Goodbru has helped a lot of people with that are specific. And I think the reason we hear about these is 2 reasons. One is because it's actually helping them, and the other is because these 2 issues are so they mess with people's lives so much that if they find something that helps them, they really want to tell you about it. And it's the acid reflux, and it's the chronic constipation. A high percentage of the population, like 10 to 20% of people, have severe constipation, and this is people that aren't going to the bathroom but only like a couple of times a week. I mean, even people that will go end up they'll go a week without going. And we have a lady who was a nurse, a very healthy lady. Actually, she runs her husband's a dentist, and she's a nurse. She's a super fit, and she actually runs like a health center. And she had, for like 20 years, she said she'd been trying to deal with what was chronic constipation, and our product helped her in like a couple of weeks. And she carries it now in her store. And I just saw her the other day, actually, and she was like, I swear, both her and her husband swear by it. That's what she said. I had another gentleman who was an older gentleman. He, for 2 years, his doctor had been trying to help him with chronic constipation, and he started using Goodbru, and it helped him. And the thing is, Goodbru is not a laxative. That's another thing. There's been a big study done with people who are using these GLP-1s, and which mess up their gut and everything else. And it was like 70% of them who started using the probiotic strain that we use started to find relief from these digestive health issues. And a lot of that probably has to do with the serotonin and neurotransmission in the gut too, from having a healthier gut, because that has a lot to do with gut motility. So yeah, there's a combination of things. With the fiber itself, you do get some benefit of like absorbing more moisture into the digestive system, which helps. But then with the probiotic and changing the gut microbiome, I think why people are seeing such longer term benefits with Goodbru is because it's actually changing the microbiome in a way that starts to allow the cells and everything to function correctly. These short chain fatty acids, the vitamins, the neurotransmitters, all of those sorts of things. And by the way, serotonin also plays a big role in heart function. So our producing the healthy amounts of serotonin in the body also has a lot to do with heart function. So that there's a key receptor in the heart muscle that is signaled by serotonin as well. So there's all these combination of things. Oh, another really powerful testimonial. There's a functional medicine doctor here in Northern Colorado, a functional medicine. He's one of the most respected functional medicine doctors in the area. We saw him at an integrated medicine conference this summer. He's a little bit older. He and his wife came by our booth, and they both were having digestive health issues. A functional medicine doctor. This is what he's supposed to know all about. He's like, and he got our product, and like it was only like 2 or 3 weeks. I got a message from him. He said, "I love your product." He said, "I don't want to make any money off of it. I just want a discount code that I can give to all my clients." So there you go. So we get a lot. We get people all the time. Yeah. Just remember, the gut's different for everybody. So we have like over a 50% reorder rate. Whatever. Start small. There's always going to be somebody that for whatever reason it's just not for them. So all you can do is try it and see. But it's overwhelming how many positive comments we get and testimonials we get.
Yeah, I would tell people when you try it, if you try 2 scoops, I would say try 1. And then if you're good with it, go another scoop. And then if you're like, well, okay, then maybe you could back off a little bit to find that sweet spot. But I would definitely tell people, you got to give it a try. You got to give it a try, and things will be, you're going to just notice that feeling. It's hard to describe. Is this when you you feel good or you feel clean, like you're going to pick up on these things. And then obviously long term, you'll start noticing probably physical benefits to that. But there's this feeling, just like when we know, like, yeah, I'm starting to get sick, I'm starting to come under the weather. You feel these things. Well, you feel when good things are happening as well. It is. I'm not sure if I shared this story with you or not, but somebody, and I have to sneeze right now, so I'm like trying not to sneeze into the mic. And of course, now it'll go away. Is what about? Does this have any impact on oral health? Mm-hmm. Like with like, for instance, with the breath issue, there's a lot of people out there that are struggling with the breath issue, and I've heard that that's tied to gut health.
Yes, it is. Yes, it definitely is. And I've noticed my own self benefits in my gums and that sort of thing. So yes, Bacillus coagulans, there's quite a few studies now backing Bacillus coagulans and the benefit that they have on oral health. Basically what happens is the good microbes, just like in the rest of the digestive system, start to displace the bad microbes. And so they win the battle of the balance of the microbiome in the mouth as well. And there are some studies now showing that Bacillus coagulans I think both of the studies that I've read, I think they were both done with younger people, but younger people tend to have a lot of cavities and things. But they showed in both of those studies that I read that there was a significant decrease in pathogenic microbes in the mouth within like four weeks. And so when you're drinking your coffee and you're washing that probiotic through your mouth, you can get some oral health benefits from that as well. But then also, that's not just stopping the mouth. It also means if if you have a healthy gut microbiome, as those microbes translocate from the mouth into the lower part of our digestive system, if you have a healthy gut microbiome, that they won't survive as well in that environment. They'll get displaced there also, rather than taking hold. So yes, they saw that with dogs, especially like years and years, like decades ago, was one of the first places where, because obviously people don't brush their dogs' teeth and stuff like we do our own, and they saw this really strong connection between dogs that have cleaner mouths and longer, healthier lifespans than dogs that had poor oral health. And this really started a big movement to get people to clean their dog's teeth and all of that kind of thing. Same thing going on with a dog that goes on with the humans. If you got bad microbes in your mouth, it's going to end up going all the way through your digestive system, affecting everything, even your kidneys and etc.
Well, last question, and then I'll let you tell everybody where they can go to find this and get this stuff again. For people that maybe they're dealing with some other ailments in their life, and they got there's some people that are just, they got to take a lot of prescription medications for a lot of different things. Is this something that interferes with people that are on prescription medication, or is this something where it's like, before you take this, you might want to look into it a little bit more?
Yeah, no, it shouldn't. There is nothing that I've ever come across that shows any specific, counterindications with medication or anything like that. So, if anything, a healthier gut microbiome should, benefit people with any kind of health issues. That said, there's always going to be some outlier situation. There might be some medication. There might be something that the gut microbiome, when it's healthy, breaks down too fast, and then you don't get the medication absorbed properly. So, that might be, something you would have to talk to your doctor about. I got a healthier gut now. Do I need to take more medicine because it's getting broken down faster? I don't know, but there's nothing specific. It's not like, there's not like a chemical reaction between the microbes and the medication that I know of.
Freaking awesome. Well, with that, Gabe, Goodbru. If you want to cover that holiday special again, and then I'll remind everybody, use that promo code Alpha. Yes, please use the Alpha promo code. You get a discount with that, and we also can credit Alpha with the sales, so that we know how we're helping him as well, supporting the program. Gotcha. And then you said, what was the special again that you guys have going on right now for the holidays?
It's buy a large and get a small free. Get us free small. Get 2 of the mediums at a discount, or get 3 of the smalls as a stocking stuffer special, which a lot of people like for travel. And just remember to spell BRU, so GOODBRU.com/alpha, or just put alpha in as a discount at the discount code at checkout.
There you guys have it. Do me a solid. If you guys are already taking this stuff, I know some of you have messaged me on DMs and email, drop a comment down so people that are watching this show later on or watching the replay can go and hear your guys' testimonials. And if you're having a good experience, go to the website and give some feedback there. So with that, you guys, do me a favor, stick around, support people, support this show, and I will catch you guys tomorrow night on Operation Gladio at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. With that, you guys, good night and Semper Fi.